Hello, scholars. Today we're going to be doing the midpoint formula, which is scale 1.5b. So we're really going to go deep into it. So first, let's start out with what the midpoint formula is. Basically, the midpoint finds the midpoint on a graph. And I will always give you 2 points that are graphed. So I'll give you a x1, y1, and x2, y2, and they will be numbers in your basic midpoint problem. And the formula that you need to know is, and we call a midpoint, we just name it by a letter that we call point M. And it is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. And we just express it as a xy coordinate. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a very basic example before we get into kind of those more interactive and conceptual examples. So I'm just going to keep the midpoint formula up here because we're going to recycle it. So this says find the midpoint between 3,2 and 6,-4. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to label my points. So I'm going to label this as x1, y1, and x2, y2. Do not confuse this with the distance formula. You are being asked for the midpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to substitute in the x1, y1, x2, y2s into my formulas. So I have x's divided by 2. So I'm going to do 3 plus 6 divided by 2. And then I'm going to have 2 plus -4 divided by 2. And you want to make sure that they are simplified as much as possible. So this is going to be 9 over 2. And if it's a simplified fraction, you can stop. It is as simple as you can get. And then here I have -2 over 2. And we could just go a little bit more. So I'm going to have 9/2, comma, -1. And that is my midpoint. And the M is not like a variable, but it's just the name of the point. All right. Example 2 is the endpoint problem. And this does give students a little bit more of a challenge. So I'm going to show you a way that I show students that's kind of unique, and it's a little bit different than what you're going to see on Delta Math. And then I'm going to walk you through the Delta Math solutions as well. And I like you to kind of think about which way works best for you. And if you are, after this video, still struggling with that during breakout room time, please let me know. And I can walk through each way with you and we can see which way works best for you. So basically, here we give you the midpoint and you need to find the endpoint. So this is find the endpoint given the midpoint. So literally, we have a line segment that is AB. And M is the midpoint. And we have a X and a Y coordinate. So I'm going to kind of play scorekeeper here. So I have an X number line and a Y number line, basically. And point A is, let's see, the X coordinate of point A is 4. And the Y coordinate of point A is -4. And then my midpoint has a coordinate of 6 for my x, and then a -1 for my y. So to get from 4 to 6, I ask myself, how do I get from 4 to 6? Well, if I add 2 to 4, I get to 6. So if I travel 2 units to the right, and I'm at the halfway point, that means I have to travel 2 more units. And that gets me to 8 for my x coordinate. And then I think about what I do for the y coordinate. So here I'm going from -4 to -1. So I'm adding 3. And then I'm just going to add 3 again. And that will get me to 2. And it's asking me for the coordinates of point B. So I'm at 8, 2. So that is way 1. So I'm going to pause here for a minute. And then I'm going to show you the delta math ways as well. All right, so delta math is actually going to give you 2 methods. So the first method is the algebraic method. And what it has here is it basically gives you the midpoint formula. And you're going to actually take the x coordinate of the midpoint. So this x1 plus x2 stuff is equal to the x coordinate of your midpoint, which is 6. And the y coordinate of your midpoint is -1. So you're basically creating 2 equations. So you have your x1 plus x2 over 2 equals to 6, and your y1 plus y2 over 2, which is equal to -1. And we happen to know our point A, but you're just going to basically be solving for x2 and y2, because it's asking us for what point B is. And what we are kind of doing here, when we set that up, I'm getting rid of the 2's in the denominator by multiplying by 2 on both sides. And that's how I get to this step. So these 2's go away. So I'm just left with 4 plus x2 equals to 12, because 6 times 2 is 12. And then here I'm left with -4 plus y2 equals to -2. And then I'm just going to solve for the coordinates, and I get 8, 2. So if you're kind of an algebraic person and you like formulas, I really recommend this way. And the other way that delta math has added is the graphical method. So this is kind of a hybrid between the number line approach. And what you're doing here basically is we have our point A and B. So my point A is 4, -4. And then my point B is going to be 8, 2. And my midpoint is going to be 6, -1. And what we're just doing is we're just doing the same rise over run. So if you have a graph, so we're going up 3 and over 2 to get to the midpoint. So then we'd have to go up 3 and over 2 again to get to that other endpoint. All right, the last example here is a conceptual example, and feel free to copy the graph down into your notes or screenshot. And if you're not able to copy it 100%, I would like you to just kind of observe, though, how I approach this problem so that you can gain a lot of experience and see conceptually where the midpoint formula is coming from. So for point A, it's asking us to graph 7, 1. So I'm going to go to 7, 1. And there's my point. And then for point B, I'm going to go to 1, 4. So I'm going to go 1, 4. And it says then to click and drag to draw a rectangle with the segment as a diagonal. So your goal is to create a rectangle where that segment is a diagonal. And I did that. And it says you may press submit or click the graph again to replot the midpoint. And to get the midpoint, I like to think about where about is the halfway point of my rectangle. So here is about the halfway point. And then we go halfway point again in the Y direction. And right where that crosshair is where that midpoint is. And there it is. It is graphed. And I can write down my coordinates. So my X coordinate is 4. And then my Y coordinate is going to be, it's a half actually. Maybe I'll do 2.5. And there we go.